Hello and welcome to Game and Read. This is the introduction video to this month's discussion and pairing, which we are doing between The Princess Bride by William Goldman and the King's Quest episodic adventure game from the past couple years, published by Sierra Entertainment and developed by The Odd Gentleman. I am here to introduce you to the novel The Princess Bride. We are switching things up a little. Instead of doing the game, I'm going to be doing the book this time. So, The Princess Bride by William Goldman was originally published in 1973, and while it is seen primarily as a fantasy novel, it actually takes place in 1973. William Goldman is editing a lengthy fairy tale in the book called The Princess Bride. He is editing it down so that it is just a fun version of that story about fencing, fighting, duels, love, romance, miracles, all kinds of fun stuff that you would want in a fairy tale, and he's trying to edit it down for his publisher. And so while it is a fairy tale, it is also routinely interrupted by William Goldman as he is playing the narrator to his own story. It's an interesting concept, and it's definitely makes for a pretty fun book that is just a good fairy tale on its own merits. Anyway, The Princess Bride itself, the story, the fairy tale, tells the story that many of us may be familiar with from the 1987 film about Princess Buttercup, the peasant girl who is coerced into marriage by the boorish and violent Prince Humperdinck. This happens after the love of her life, Wesley, is killed at sea. She is kidnapped, things happen. It's a big swashbuckling fun adventure with true love and miracles and all the good stuff. Turkish giants, great things. And that is the basic plot of the concept of the story. If you are unfamiliar with it, I guess I don't want to spoil it for you, so you should go watch The Princess Bride or read The Princess Bride. But if somehow you haven't done that, I don't want to ruin it for you. Most of us who are familiar with The Princess Bride are probably more familiar with the 1987 film. And that's not surprising. It has remained a popular film for 30 years now. I know I watched it all the time growing up, despite not having been alive until, 5 years after it came out. And I always loved it. However, the book definitely still holds a place for a lot of people, I think. While I couldn't find specific numbers on how well it sold, the fact that it was turned into a movie 14 years after its publication probably spoke to the quality of the book itself, or at least the popularity of it. And then when I was just Googling around trying to find more information about it, I did see that it is the most popular book on Goodreads published in 1973. I looked at the other books in 1973. There weren't a ton of super well-known ones, but it is by far the most popular book currently read from 1973. So that is all I have to say about The Princess Bride at this time. We'll be discussing it at great length in a couple weeks during our pairing video. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Erin, who will talk about King's Quest.
Now that Peter has told you about The Princess Bride, I am here to talk about King's Quest, our game for this pairing. King's Quest was developed by Odd Gentleman and published by Sierra Entertainment. This game, King's Quest, was released in 5 episodic adventures between July of 2015 and October of 2016, with an epilogue coming out in December of 2016 that unfortunately won't be covered in our pairing video because it's not available to people who bought the season pass. Sad. Anyway, we will be talking about the 5 main episodes that make up this King's Quest game. So, King's Quest is a reimagining of the PC games called King's Quest, which were developed and created by Roberta Williams in 1984 and continued through King's Quest 8 in 1998. It is owned by Sierra Games, which was actually founded by Williams and her husband, Ken, and Sierra Entertainment is now owned by Activision Blizzard. Now, King's Quest the game follows the adventures of Graham, the adventurer turned king of Daventry. So each episode is a story that King Graham in his very old age is telling his young granddaughter Gwendolyn. So it is a mix of past and present, though all the gameplay happens in the past. You see King Graham, old King Graham, telling the story, and you see cutscenes that involve the present, but you control everything that happens in the past. So the 5 episodes each have a different story and a different time in King Graham's life. The first episode, A Night to Remember, talks about King Graham's adventure journey from just a simple adventurer who is really excited to go out and see the world, and how he becomes a knight in King Edward's court. The second episode is called Rebel Without a Cause, and it takes place in a goblin dungeon. King Graham at this point, and all the notable townspeople, the ones that you interact with regularly, are all kidnapped by goblins, and you have to figure out how to escape while also not letting the people that you care about and your townspeople starve or get sick or be sent to the infirmary. The third episode is called Once Upon a Climb, and it tells the story of Graham as he tries to find his queen, and there are some complications to that one. Episode 4 is No Place Like Home, in which King Graham with his family, they are going on what they think will be a nice family vacation. It ends up being a labyrinth full of puzzles. And the last episode, the 5th episode, is called The Good Night, and it concludes the story of King Graham and his final battle with the antagonist that has been present throughout the whole thing, which we're not going to spoil yet, but all bets are off for our discussion videos. As you know, we are all about spoilers in those discussion videos. So King's Quest has been pretty well reviewed. The second episode, Rebel Without a Cause, has gotten the lowest reviews of the episodes, which you might agree with if you've played it, you might not. If you want to find out whether we agree with that, you will have to come back for our pairing video. So that is King's Quest and The Princess Bride. You can come back and watch us discuss this pairing and talk more in depth about the themes and the parallels and the differences. And that video and all our other videos and our blog posts and our podcasts, those are all available at gameandread.com. You can also check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Litzy. We are at Game and Read. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.